Welcome to Shine in the Light. My name is S.E. Walebua, and my guest today is Kumi Rauf. He's a computer scientist, world traveler, and social media strategist. Kumi is the creator of I Love Being Black cultural movement and apparel line. He believes in lifting as he climbs. He has spread I Love Being Black's message of positivity, awareness, and action to dozens of countries across the globe. Welcome, Kumi.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love that intro. Thank you.
You're welcome, my brother. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about your background, where you were born and so forth. Till you created, all those movements that you are operating right now.
Yeah. So I'm from a small beach town called Santa Cruz, California.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised by two Black conscious, Pan-African, in the movement, type of parents. So for me, it was a natural kind of progression of life. You know what I mean? They instilled a lot of messages in me from a very young age. We were watching Anansi the Spider and other African cartoons, and I'm sure you're aware of stuff like that.
Of course.
From a young age, man. And so it hit hard. We didn't. I was thankful that we didn't need to go and find our Africanity. It was already there for us as kids. My dad, he used to make a lot of things like this with trade beads. The blue one is the chevron bead right there. That's a very rare trade bead in West Africa. He used to go to all these different events and festivals and sell them. And my mom was the first Black, they called it stewardess back in the day for the airline that she worked for. So for me, to be Black and also to travel and enjoy and explore the world, I think was a very natural thing.
Wow. And so you graduated. When did you graduate? You went to Santa Barbara, right?
Yeah. Graduated Santa Barbara, 2001. In computer science, got my BS in computer science, entered the industry, did the whole computer science thing until about 2008. I was coding, writing code, good work. I still write code on my own for my own projects, but it wasn't enough for me. Corporate America was great. The money was great. I was making over $100,000 a year in my early 20s. And the environment was pretty relaxed. You could wear, shorts and flip flops to work and all that other stuff, unless you went out to a client and you got to dress up in suits or whatever. But it just wasn't enough. I realized that I'm not changing anything. I'm helping other clients with their, with their work and this and that. And I was a good developer, but I wasn't really changing anything. I wasn't moving the needle. And especially for our people it was sort of like what I would do when I would get home is I would work on I Love Being Black instead of that being my primary thing. So I'm like, you know what? This needs to change. I need to do more with my time, and I need to dedicate more of my energy towards changing things for our people. So 2008, I actually got fired. I got fired from corporate America, and that was the best thing that could ever happen.
Did it become a blessing to you?
Oh man, that silver lining turned into more of like a gold lining, Yeah. Because then all my time was mine, and I had money in the bank.
I can relate.
Experience. Yeah. I know with Vangoland,
But then we're here, man, and right now we went through the pandemic, and I just want to know how you dealing with that, how you coping, I know you're in the Bay Area right now, and the Bay Area is one of the areas that are sort of kind of still lingering a little bit.
I'll be honest, we went on our most recent tour was this past January of 2020. We went to Havana, did the Jazz Fest. I brought about 22 people down there with me. Black folks, we just enjoyed ourselves, learned about the Afro-Cuban history and everything.
I would love to go there.
Hey man, we do it every January. We do, except this January we're skipping just because I'm not completely sure about COVID and everything. But yeah, every January we go to that Jazz Fest. And then COVID hits March, and all travel stops. So we had to postpone a bunch of tours. postponed South Africa, postponed Ghana, postponed Cuba, and Belize. So basically postpone everything. And November is usually the month we go to Brazil. And I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about that later and stuff like that. But COVID, there's a silver lining in COVID too, right?
Right.
Because the bad thing is obviously people are sick and people are dying. Obviously that's bad. But the silver lining in it is that you spend so much time at home and so much time not out hanging out. Like, I like to travel. I like to play pool, billiards. So I can't really do those things. So it forces me to rededicate my time instead of just sitting home, be like, I'm bored. I have this time and I'm like, let me use this time towards projects and initiatives that I was trying to get done, but I just couldn't find the time to do it. Now I have the time to do it. So we needed to revamp our website. We finally did that. We needed to do a couple other things. We needed to link up with some different organizations, write some grants. I did all of those things now. And also I had my first seed. My daughter was born May 5th. So she's a pandemic baby. That's my first child. And so I get to spend a lot more time with her. She's actually, I hear her in the next room. But yeah,
it's a wonderful thing. Congratulations again, my brother.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's amazing, and it's so for me, not traveling, I had already kind of planned to not really travel this year for a while because obviously you can't travel right before and right after your child is born. So I was going to be here, but now that's just extended a little bit.
Right. Wow. So how did you get the name or nickname, escape artist? I mean,
it was actually a name that was given to me.
Okay.
So when I first started, my first trip was 2007. The first international trip, well, at least international trip where I actually had to get on a plane. And it hit so hard. I was like, all this stuff is out here, all these cultures, all this everything. I had to keep doing it over and over and over again. And then I kept looking at my bank account. I'm like, you know what? I have to figure out a way to do this for cheap, but still not sacrifice on the experience and on the fun and on the stories and on being able to travel authentically. So I just began to chip away and learn more things like, oh, this is those points and miles. This is what that's about. Oh, this is how you get more of those. Oh, this is how you use those for free flights around the world. And by the way, you can get hotels and you can fly business class or first class or apartment class. I even flew one time, took an $8,000 flight for like $200. That's priceless. And before all of this, I sort of envisioned traveling and being able to do these things as something that's reserved for rich people.
Right.
And I didn't see myself as a rich person. So I kind of was like, maybe that's not for me. But now I learned how to do it. I learned that you don't have to be rich to travel. And if you travel smart, you can do it for almost free.
Right.
I have friends that went to Vegas and I went to somewhere like Kenya or something like that. And I spent less money on a whole Kenya trip than they did going to Vegas. So it just depends on how you do it. But yeah, I was given that name because people kept saying, wait, how are you finding these ridiculous flights? And how are you traveling like every, month or every 2 months or whatever it is? In 2015, I went to 20 different countries in a year. And that was actually a little too much travel, but that's the escape artist. I see something is on my list and an opportunity comes up to be able to go there, and especially if I'm introduced to folks that are from there and I can, I can learn about the country in a more authentic way. I'm going to do it.
Wow. One of the things that I really want to ask you is, what really inspired you to start the I Love Being Black movement? I have a cousin back home. We always like, you said this is a movement. I'm like, yeah, this is a movement, And for me, though, really, I Love Being Black. It is sort of kind of, his heart. It really sort of kind of connects me to the roots, like to the person who I'm supposed to be as a Black person. Or right? You know what I mean? Like, it's not about colonialism. It's not about slavery and all that. Although those things, those components are very important in our lives, right?
Right.
You know.
Yeah. So I mean, I always tell people it was born out of necessity. If things were great for Black people, if things were perfect for Black people, if we weren't oppressed peoples, if we weren't marginalized, we wouldn't need things like "I love being Black." I would actually love the day where I wouldn't need to say this. We need to say it because we need to balance out the scales, right? The scales are tipped like this, and we're here, but it should be at least level like that. You know what I mean? And you see so much negativity about Black people in the media. You see it, and sometimes it's not all external from our community. Sometimes it's internal in our community. Sometimes we're putting out the negativity and bad messages that come from inside our community. So we need to combat those as well. But I was like, I need something that I can latch onto that just lets people know, and kind of even reminds myself too about who I am, where I come from, my Blackness, my Africanity. I think we need to have something very simple that you can latch onto that other people might be able to latch onto as well. So I made one T-shirt in college. I wore it around campus, and all the Black people at campus, and it wasn't many there.
I got one of the newest. I got one of the newest ones right now.
Yeah. You got the Africanity right there with the kente cloth sewn on there.
Right.
But I wore the T-shirt, and the Black people everywhere across campus were like, "Where did you get that T-shirt? I need one. Here's my dorm room. Here's $15-20, whatever." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I guess I can make a couple more." So I started making more, just real low key, and then things just ramped up. Everywhere I would go, Black people would stop me on the street and be like, "Hey, I like that shirt." And even non-Black people, sometimes they'd be like, "Hey, I like that," and they would know. They know why we're wearing it. And even the ones that don't know, sometimes it depends on their state of mind, but sometimes it would open up an avenue for a conversation about it. I'm open to having a conversation about it with somebody that's not Black, but they have to realize that this message, this movement is not about them.
Yes.
It's not about them. This is about us. This is not about proving to someone else like, "Hey, guess what?" No. This is about us, because our this is something else I realized while I was in college. The solutions that we're looking for are internal. Right? Yes, we would love to stop police brutality, this, and that. But if we put our freedom after fixing racist white people or institutions of slavery and oppression and things like that, if we put our happiness and our freedom after fixing them, guess what? We may not ever get there. Right? So we have to take our slice of the pie now. We have to realize that we come from great civilizations. We have to realize that our ancestors created everything good on this earth. We have to realize all of those things now. Right? So that's what I Love Being Black is about. It's about positivity, awareness, and action. You need all three of those things. That's what it's all about. And we started to take it worldwide. And I realized that there were a lot of Black people around the world that felt the exact same way. Maybe not everybody, but that's okay. But there were a lot of Black people around the world that felt the exact same way.
Right. And so after you started with a T-shirt, basically.
Started with a T-shirt, and then from there I sort of looked and I was like, this has to be more than just clothing, right? And social media was kind of hitting its second wind. And I said, I'm gonna study social media and see what this is all about, because I really feel like I can reach a lot of people around the world. And sure enough, with Facebook and how it kind of just blew up and everything, now it's got over 2 billion users worldwide. We reach a lot of people. Our Facebook page has 6 million fans. About 1/3 of those are outside the U.S. So about somewhere around 2 million of our fans are outside the U.S. all around the world. And that's the fastest growing area for us is outside the U.S. And people they latch on to the message. They latch on because we need this. We need to see more things that lift us up instead of things that are tearing us down. Right. So some people in the early days, we used to do this thing called the quote of the day. We would take a quote from somebody Black or an African proverb or something like that and post it up every morning And there were folks, this is back in like 2009, like 2010, early Facebook days. And they would say, look, the only reason I have a Facebook account is so I can check your quote of the day. That's the only reason I'm even on here. Like, I don't really mess with this stuff. I'm only on Facebook to see your page and your content. I was like, wow, that's big.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you're creating a movement, like I Love Being Black, what one thing you really don't want to really leave behind or ignore? Because if you do it or if you ignore it, you're not gonna make it.
Africa. Yeah, for me, that's easy. It's Africa because, and I'm not just saying that because you're from the motherland.
No.
I'm saying that because I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
You can't love being Black without love being African,
Woo!
right? You can't, like, Black is African. I am African. I'm an African in America. I don't consider myself an African American. I'm an African that happens to be here in America, right? If and this is what Malcolm was saying. He's like, if I was truly an American, then I would get all the civil rights and the human rights that were afforded to Americans. But if I have to drink out of separate fountains, I can't get a loan, and you're shooting me down when I'm in the street, I don't really think makes me feel like an American. So, but yeah, you cannot leave Africa out of the conversation. You cannot leave Africa out of the equation. And I think that it's important for every Black person from the diaspora to, at some point, if you can, obviously it's not cheap a lot of times, but if you can, make it back home, make it back to somewhere in Africa. And I guarantee you, I tell people this all the time, I don't know anyone that's been to an African country and not wanted to go to more after they went. I don't know not one person, right? Everyone who goes is just like, why, it blew my mind. I have to go to more. I have to do this. And it's like they're putting more African countries on their bucket list instead of like, oh, I want to go to France and I want to go to, Italy and I want to go to, UK and this and that. Like, go to those places too. But do not forget about Africa. You can't. It's our root. And without our root, like without the root, the tree dies, right?
Wow. That's powerful, man. Well, now that we're talking about traveling, you have a venture called Traveling Black, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So explain to us how you picked up that name. Is it the experience you get as a Black person when you're traveling, or is it about exploring Black cultures around the world?
You're quick. I'm so glad you picked up on that. Most people don't pick up on that. They either assume it's one or the other. It's actually both.
Okay.
Right? So let me rewind. So Traveling Black was born out of I Love Being Black. We started traveling internationally with I Love Being Black because I was like, there's all these different Black cultures around the world. We don't know anything about them except what we maybe heard or what we read or even what we haven't heard. Right? Brazil, a lot of Black folks don't know that there's 100 million Black people in Brazil. They don't know that. They don't know that half of Brazil is Black. They have way more Black people than the U.S. does, and it's a smaller country. And we talk about oppression and this and that, which is bad here, but in Brazil, it's way worse. It's way worse. So let's traveling opens your eyes and makes you a more conscious global citizen, right? And that's something that I think is extremely important because our lens can't just be this small. Our lens has to be this big and encompass the entire globe. So we were traveling a lot with I Love Being Black, and people kept asking us, they're like, it's cool, I see you in Zimbabwe and Colombia and this and that. But like, how do I go with you? Because my friends keep flaking and I really want to go travel with someone who is not just going to go out there and just do touristy things, but they're also going to do things that are like down home. Like I don't really like the term off the beaten path, but do things that are more endemic and more natural to the folks that live there. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to eat home cooked meals. We're going to have conversations with people. We're not just going to go around and point, oh, this is this and this is that, and let's take some pictures and some selfies and go home. We're going to have conversations about current events that are happening right now, right there, because those are important. Those are important. A lot of times folks from here in the US, we expect other people to know about what's going on in the US, but then we don't know anything about what's going on in their home countries. We didn't know about the floods the drought in Cape Town. We didn't know about the cyclone in Mozambique. right? We don't know about the police brutality that's 5 times worse than it is here in the U.S. That's in Brazil, right? These are the things that we need to learn about, because there's similarities and there's differences, right? There's similarities in between our cultures, and then there's also differences. And the differences, I love learning about those. I love tasting different foods, hearing different languages, different dance, different music. I love all of that. So this is what Traveling Black is about. So far, we've taken groups, multiple trips to South Africa, multiple trips to Cuba.
I watched one of your streams. I don't know which year was that. Was it like 2018 or something? I can't remember.
All right. Yeah. Where was I? Or where were we?
I think you were in Cape Town at that time. Somewhere around.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I love doing live streams, because to shoot a video and then post it is one thing, but to do a live stream, they're like, oh, this for real is Cape Town. You know, or we'll just shoot like a beach or like a cabana scene or whatever it is, and we'll tell people, hey, guess where we are right now? And they're like, oh, you look like you're in this town or this town, and da, da, da. They rarely guess anywhere on the continent of Africa, right? So we tell them, hey, this is Cape Town. This is Labadi Beach in Accra. You know what I'm saying? This is Zanzibar in Tanzania. You know what I'm saying? Or this is here, and they're like, oh, that's what it looks like. I never knew. And so these are the reasons why we travel, but not just travel. We have to travel and capture our stories and tell our stories to other people, because, you know, if we don't tell these stories, someone else is going to tell it, and they're going to tell it wrong. And that's what they've been doing for the last few hundred years, right? Other people have been telling our stories. So we capture a lot of media and we post about it and just let people know, hey, this is the spot we were at.
So what are some of the conversation you have had, you know, in especially in Cape Town, and you telling these people, like, you know, I'm from the Bay Area, you know, or something, you know?
It's funny. You start to look at stereotypes in a different way, because obviously there's stereotypes about Africa, but there's also stereotypes about the U.S. as well. One of the biggest stereotypes is that just money grows on trees. Like everyone in the U.S. is rich, blah, 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 because they hear things like, oh, we heard you make, you know, let's say $50,000 a year, and $50,000 US dollars to someone in like South Africa or Ghana or something like that. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But what they don't hear is that, oh, my rent is $2,000 a month, because their rent may be like free or $50 a month or something like that or whatever. And so they're thinking, no, he must be exaggerating. He can't be paying $2,000 US dollars a month for rent. No, that's how it is for a lot of areas in the U.S., especially in the Bay Area. You know, you go to San Francisco, right across the bridge, and people are paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month in rent, not mortgage, but rent. So those are those stereotypes, and it's good to unearth those. Just so there's an unlearning process that needs to go on, so we can then relearn things the correct way. That's one thing I really like to do when I'm traveling, though.
That's cool. No, I used to tell, you know, my little cousins, you know, when I'm home, like, you know, whatever you see on MTV, you know, you see Snoop. That's not how people, you know.
How people live like that.
People go to work,
right?
You know, people have to pay bills. You know what I mean? Like, people are working hard. You know, like whatever you see over here now, that's not the representation of Black people that I know. You know, that Black people are hardworking people. They try to provide for their families and so forth. So and then I like your story when you were in Mozambique. You know, during the cyclone area, and you sort of kind of escaped like 2 months before that, right?
We were concluding a tour. We were doing a tour to South Africa. We went to Afropunk, and we did that whole thing over New Year's. My birthday is shortly after that, in January. So I had planned the tour is going to end like 2 days before my birthday, and then I was like, all right, I'm about to turn 40. I want to turn 40 in, you know, somewhere in a new African country. That was exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't need to do much. I needed a beach, some water, some sunshine, and a new African country. Right. So I did my research, and I said, you know, Mozambique looks like a winner, because it's right there. It's a short ways away from our flight in Joburg. So we went to Maputo, and then we took a short boat ride to the island of Inyaka. It's a very small island. It's like 20 miles Square, and I just spent some time on the beach, you know, drank some coconut water and just chilled, you know, and soaked up some sun, and I was like, this is exactly what I wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go deep into this. Statistics show that not a lot of Black Americans travel outside the country, right? And research shows that, you know, more than half reported that their most recent leisure destination are like 100 to 500 miles. Is it because of economic stance or maybe lack of representation? Even though I think it's changing.
Yeah, things are definitely changing. The Black travel movement, or what I like to say is the second Black travel movement, because we've always been traveling. You know what I mean? How you think there's Black people all around the world? We've always been traveling. I mean, honestly, it's both. You know what I mean? It's definitely a financial barrier, but also it's a lack of knowledge, right? And some of the knowledge could be about like my own lack of knowledge before I started traveling. I thought traveling was meant for rich people, you know what I mean, or X, Y, and Z, right? But then I had to figure out how to do it smart. That's, you know, like how I became the escape artist. And we have a seminar called Travel More, Spend Less, where I teach people. It's like a 3-hour seminar, and we recorded it last month. The recording's available on our page. If you go to traveling.black, you can hit that. But yeah, I teach people the tips and tricks and the secrets of how I get around the world and don't pay a lot of money for it. But yeah, I think a lot of our folks don't travel because of either they don't have the money, they are afraid of different things. Like some people are afraid of, you know, getting on a plane, or, oh, I'm afraid of a long plane ride or something like that. Or some people ask me things like, oh, but is it racist over there? How is it? And I always tell them, like, it's racist here. What are you talking about? Like, this is one of the most racist places in the world. You know, like you could pretty much spin a globe. Whatever your finger lands on is going to be less racist than the U.S.
Right.
That's just how it is. And, you know, even if there's some unrest and this and that, most likely you're not going to be in those areas, right? Unless you're looking for stuff like that. But yeah, it's by and large, I think the lack of knowledge is the biggest thing. You know, if we all knew how to travel for cheap, we would do it more. We've done polls, and that's literally the answer every single time. Folks answer, if I didn't have to pay so much, or if I could afford it, I would travel a lot more, right? And then so we try to help people out with the knowledge piece, and say, hey, these are the things you can do when you like climbing mountains. Well, guess what? Here, you know, here's Kilimanjaro, or here's this place, or here's that place, or whatever it is. Maybe even if it's not on the continent, maybe it's somewhere else. Maybe where were we? The Galapagos Islands. There's a huge volcano out there that's the second biggest crater in the world, and we climbed on top of that and did all kinds of cool stuff. It depends on what you want to do, but it's all available for you around the world. You just got to know about it.
Right. You know, I was invited last year to go and talk about, you know, Black History Month, and the first thing, you know, I talked about, it was like, I don't know why we have to celebrate this thing like once a month. You know, we should be doing this every day, you know, or every month. You know, what is your take on that, man? You know,
honestly, again, it depends on you, right? If you only celebrate Black history during February, during those 28 to 29 days in February, I think that's a problem. I think you should definitely celebrate it all year long and embody Black culture, Black history, your Africanity, learning, challenging the things that you think you know. I think you should do that all year long. But I also think that it's okay to celebrate something at a higher vibration just for a short time. We can't keep a super high vibration like that about a specific subject for 365 days, right? It'd be pretty hard to do. So I actually enjoy Black History Month. And since we've started going to Brazil, I actually started calling it Black Consciousness Month, because that's what they call it. You know, in November in Brazil, they call it Black Consciousness Month. And you know, they're not only talking about history. That's my only thing. I love history. Don't get me wrong. We need to pay homage to our ancestors and learn about what happened. That's extremely important. But we also should be talking about what's going on right now. We also should be talking about, not just the Black inventors of yesterday, but let's talk about these little 15-year-old kids that are inventing things and finding solutions and becoming doctors and engineers and entrepreneurs and doing cool stuff right now. And let's also talk about what we want to see for our people in the future. So we need to talk about all that. And that's why the phrase Black History Month kind of keeps us kind of pigeonholed a little bit in one area. But if you call it Black Consciousness Month, then you could talk about all three of those things and everything else surrounding Black people. So I love what the Brazilians do, and I try to do more of that.
Wow. I like what you're saying. Like, it's let's talk about what we're doing right now, and our future and so forth. And then talk about how ways the diaspora can work together with those in motherland, because I think that's critical,
Yeah. I mean, well, where do I start? First,
I want to connect you with the Botswana. Let me just start saying that I want to connect you with Botswana tourism, but I think you guys will work together well.
Please. My next trip to anywhere in Southern Africa, I need to hit up Botswana. I need to hit up, Namibia, Angola. Yeah, one of my good friends is from Angola. He keeps telling me, he's like, you have to go to Angola. Yeah.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah. So I mean,
there's this river that is called the Okavango. It ends in the northern part of Botswana, right? Like into a huge delta, but it starts in Angola, and it's really fascinating. Like just follow that river from all the way from the heart of Angola, to part of Namibia and into Botswana. I think it's really fascinating.
I would love to see it.
The culture, the food, because you're talking about, seeing different people, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it to every African country. I've been to 14 so far, and I definitely want to get to each and every one and document it and just learn and eat and break bread and hang out with folks and all that stuff. But I think that to answer your question about how folks from the diaspora can work with Africa, I think we need to meet each other. You know what I mean? Like, we need to, whether it's virtually or whether we need to actually go there, we could do that if possible. If you don't have the money to go travel, or you can't get the visa, the passport, or whatever it is in your situation, that doesn't mean that there's no other ways. But I think that's the most important thing, is because when you show up, when I show up to somewhere in the continent, and they have stereotypes about Black people here not liking them, or vice versa, or whatever it is, and I come up to them like, hey, what's up, brother? Hey, I love this music. Hey, can you show me how to do this? And I have a genuine interest in their culture. That's going to defeat stereotypes. They're going to be like, this guy can't dislike me. He seemed like he likes me. He seemed like he likes his culture. Maybe I was wrong. And that's going to make folks challenge some of the things that they think already, which I think is extremely important. There's no better way to do that than for us to just show up. B, we need to open up trade lines. Those trade lines have to open up. So recently, we've opened up even further our trade lines with the continent. So we get our jackets made in South Africa. We get some face masks, some head wraps, purses, other kind of stuff made in Ghana.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Ghana, man, those folks in Ghana, they really know how to.
They is that shirt from is it part of the was it made in Ghana in Ghana?
Yeah, this was made in Ghana. This is a prototype, though. You know what I mean?
Man, that's a prototype.
Yeah. The whole patch. These are just patches of different fabric. Nice. So we actually make a jacket just like this, though. It's already available on ilovebeingBlack.com.
Man.
But yeah, we need to open up those trade lines. You know what I mean? Because in order for Black nationalism and everything else to work, we need to spend money with each other. We have to do that. We have to stop thinking like, oh, if I want something high class or expensive, it's got to be Italian, or it's got to be French, or it's got to be this or that or whatever. Nah, if you want some high class stuff, there's some African designers that are amazing. that make some high class stuff that they make in a very short supply. You know, so if you want, I mean, we're talking from vehicles to head wraps to shoes to bikes to everything on down. You know what I mean? So it's just we need to research more. You know, I get tired of hearing that, oh, do they have running water, or how do they have internet in Africa, or do they have roads and stuff like that? You can answer all of those questions by just jumping on Google and typing, you know, downtown Johannesburg, and it'll show you pictures of downtown Johannesburg and the high rises and this and that, and like, you know, what does Nairobi look like? Here it goes. There's Nairobi right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Nairobi has their fintech, their financial technology is better than ours here. You know, they're doing a lot of virtual currency stuff that we can't even do here. And that technology is also ported to other places in Africa as well. The M-Pesa technology, right? I was doing some stuff in I was in South Africa. We had a couple shirts, and because people always say, "Oh, bring some shirts so we can buy them." I'm like, "All right." So we brought a couple shirts. We had left Cape Town, went back to Johannesburg, and one of my buddies was like, "Oh, someone wants a shirt or something like that. He's going to send you some money." And I'm like, "Well, how's he going to send me money? I don't have a bank account here." He's like, "Oh, don't worry. You'll get a text on your phone." It's like, text. So I get this text on my phone, and it had a little pin for an ATM. And I go up to the ATM. Mind you, I don't have a bank account. I don't even have a card to put into this ATM, but I have I have a pin that popped up on a text message. I go to the ATM, punch in the pin, money just spits out. Without me having an account or anything like that. That was new. We didn't have stuff like that.
Right.
So these are some of the stereotypes we need to unlearn.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the African continental free trade?
That's what Malema has been talking about in South Africa. That's what Kagame has been talking about in Rwanda. Like, this is what we were supposed to be doing. All these lines that are drawn in the sand, like, that's okay in terms of you want to identify different cultures geographically and stuff like that. Okay, but let's not let that keep us from crossing these lines, whether it's physically or with trade lines or whatever. Let's not have that hinder us. Like, there should be no visas needed for continental Africans to go to any other continental African place. In addition, and this would be nice, diasporan Africans, it would be nice if we didn't need any visas to go anywhere on the continent. You know what I mean? If I'm from there, why do I need a visa to come back? Right? So
you think the Africans on the diasporic Africans also should have the same sort of kind of deal with those?
The this is what they were talking about in Ghana. And this conversation's been happening ever since like the year of return. Or honestly, it's been happening way before the year of return as well. But yeah, these are the conversations that need to be had. We need to do more stuff with each other. We need to open up those trade lines, because some of these problems that we have will fall away if we start spending more money with each other. Yeah, literally. And it's not, some people, oh, well, you know, that's racist, or that's this, or that's that. Every other ethnicity, every other people do this. You see Indians spending money with Indians. You see Jewish people spending money with Jewish people. You see, you know, just every Chinese spending money with. You go to Chinatown, what do you think they're doing over there? That's pan-Chinese-ism, I guess. But that's what they're doing.
You know, when you talk about Chinese, you know, Chinese, they're sort of kind of all over. I don't know if you saw that when you were in Africa. There's a lot of Chinese people, and the problem with Chinese, when they go to those countries, they don't hire the local folks. They come home, you know, which I think is a problem.
That's a huge problem, because they ink that as part of their deal for doing business or helping out that country, is that they get to bring over their own workers. So it's like you're going over here and building something that, you know, there's already some problems involved in that. But in addition to that, you're not creating the new jobs. And if you do, they're at the very, very bottom rung, lowest level. You know, even some of our monuments that have been created on the continent were not created by Black hands. You know, the African Renaissance monument in Dakar in Senegal, that was made by North Koreans, I believe. So, You know, I think that it's extremely important for us to support each other,
Yes.
because these other communities are doing it. But we also need to not just do it at just a regular local level. We need our politicians. We need to put in place politicians that embody these ideals, because they're the ones that are inking these backdoor deals with the Chinese and allowing them to, not just the Chinese, the Indians, other folks, you know, Europeans, to come in and get time in their mines to get that coltan, those diamonds, that gold, and stuff like that. And while your people are suffering.
Yeah.
Right. So we need to, I mean, they literally, there are places in South Africa where where the Chinese use Chinese money amongst each other. They don't even use the rand.
I know.
They don't even use the rand. They use Chinese money amongst each other, because they're like, we're not even going to pay into your financial situation and your system here. We're going to use our own. That's how much they're recycling their money.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned a little bit about the the mineral from DRC, right? That they use in these phones, right?
Yeah.
And if you go to DRC, there's still a lot of poverty. I mean, I understand the corruption and so forth, but Apple just hit $1 trillion.
Yeah.
So your take on that? What do you think? The DRC should do?
Honestly, I don't.
Or the African unit. Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be a lot more world pressure around DRC and coltan specifically. You know what I mean? Because this is something it's like you said, it's in our cell phones, and most of us don't even realize it. Most of us don't even realize this is a rare mineral, where the #1 place to find it in the world is the Congo.
Yeah.
Right. And not only that should be a good thing, right? But it's not, because we're not making money off of it. This is a precious mineral that they found in Africa, and they're making money on, and they have it so sewed up. And so they use third-party folks and go-betweens and this and that. So no one's ever at fault when things happen. So you have a lot of corruptions. You have people dying in mines. You have a lot of rape that's happening. You have a lot of theft that's happening. You have a lot of backdoor deals that are happening. This is all happening in the Congo because of this capitalistic greed from you're talking Samsung, Google, all these different companies are making money, and they're all involved, but they like to say, oh no, we don't really know where the coltan comes. We just kind of pay and it just shows up. You know what I mean? But in terms of solving that, I think it's a very delicate situation, specifically with, if we're talking diamonds or gold, okay, those aren't necessarily used in like a lot of technological applications, right? At least not in mass, but coltan, that's primarily what it's used for. Right. So it's a delicate situation, but I think that a lot more pressure needs to be put on that entire situation. Some journalist needs to fly in there and shoot a dope documentary and name names for everybody, and just have people just in court and the whole nine. Like, that's where it needs to start.
Right. Wow. We went a little bit deep into the.
Yeah, that was kind of deep. I was surprised by that one,
But I want to ask you one more question that is sort of kind of a little bit out there. You don't even have to answer it. How like in Africa, you have all the startups, like in Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt, like obviously South Africa, right?
Yeah.
And you find that there are some of those startups are not run by Black folks.
Yeah.
And the ventures or the money that is coming in, they support the white startups in Africa. Yeah,
there's something in South Africa called the BEE. It's called Black Entrepreneurial. I forget what it stands for exactly, but it's essentially it's supposed to be more representation in Black ownership and high levels of business, right? Yeah. So what white people do is go to somebody Black and say, hey, look, I'm going to write you in as the CEO, and you're going to make $10,000 a month, let's say, and you don't have to do any work. How does that sound? And the Black people are like, oh, cool. Because now this white person who actually owns and runs and operates this business is able to get funding and able to get opportunities because they're considered a Black-owned company, but really they're not Black-owned. It's just this, they wrote this guy's name on the paper.
Right.
And that's a simplified version of it.
It's just fronting, you know, the guy.
Yeah, it's just the front.
Yeah.
And things like that are happening all over. They're happening all over. I mean, and when you talk about mining companies and this and that, like, it's terrible because it also fudges the numbers. And so we're thinking the situation isn't as bad as it is because we're looking like, oh, well, technically we have X amount of Black-owned companies, blah, blah, blah. You know, I can name more, or I saw more Black-owned actual businesses in Oakland than I did in like Cape Town.
Ooh, that's pretty. Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? You go downtown Cape Town and be like, I want to go to a Black-owned restaurant. There's a few, but only a few. Right? You ask a South African, they're going to be like, I think this one, maybe. You know what I mean? Sometimes people can't even think of one. Now I know of a few. You know, you go to Marco's, and that's like fine dining. You get your nice game. You could eat antelope there. You could eat alligator, all that stuff, whatever. You go to some other places, and you can find some Black-owned restaurants, but there aren't many. And you're like, wow, there's a ton of restaurants, but they're not owned by us.
I tell you, my brother, it's everywhere, and not even only in South Africa, even in my country, Botswana, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Go ahead.
That's the thing with things like apartheid, oppression in general, colonialism, and now neo-colonialism, is that when apartheid ended, they're like, okay, we'll give up apartheid, but we're keeping all this stuff that we created. Where all these systems that we created and everything like that, that means for hundreds of years, we're going to be able to benefit off of apartheid and slavery and the oppression that we put forth, because it's not like it just stops. They may stop the original system, but all the other subsystems that they built are still going. So they're able to go and get these loans because they own all the banks.
Right.
They're able to build all these buildings because they own the construction companies. You know what I'm saying? They're able to do a lot of stuff with the land because they took a lot of the land. You know, all that wine country and all that stuff and all these other things that are going on, they took that. And I'm sure they have something similar going on in Botswana as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's get back home a little bit. I saw at the end of the movie. I mean, we can talk about that forever, right?
yeah, definitely.
And it's really interesting. I saw at the end of the movie Black Panther, right?
Yeah.
You know, and the king comes back to Oakland, you know, buys property.
Yeah.
I mean, Black people are not all Black people are not going to go back to Africa. And so, how can this Africa Connect boost the status of Black Americans?
I think at the deepest level, connecting with Africa.
Because some folks are like, you know, America, this is our country. We're not going back. You know what I mean? Like, we would love to be in Africa, but this is also our country, right?
Right. Yeah, my ancestors helped their blood, sweat, and tears and all that other stuff. Yeah, no, I get it. But the thing is, we have to have a lot of faith in this system here, that the system will somehow get better, and that we can fix it. And I besides collapsing the entire system of white supremacy and oppression here in America, I don't see this system fixing itself. A lot of people think, oh, if Biden and Kamala get in, then it's just going to fix things. No, it won't. It literally won't. I can guarantee you that. They didn't even want to sit down with the Black folks.
100%. I agree with you.
Not even getting too deep into like the whole politics, because I know that's not what this is about.
Right.
I think that we are able to carve out a lot more than we have carved out, and we've done that, right? There's been Black Wall Streets. There's been, you know, situations in areas where Black people were thriving, right? And that might have come, I don't want to say too early, but I think at that time, white people were able to tear down our systems that we created for ourselves a lot easier back then. They could just get torches and guns and go and raid a whole town or drop bombs and stuff like that. I think we're living in a time now where, I'm not saying they wouldn't do that, but it would be tougher for them to do that. It would be tougher because of how it looks, and it would be tougher because of the media, right? Malcolm even said the media is the most powerful entity on earth, right? So, and I believe that if Malcolm was alive today, he would be using the media to his advantage, because you couldn't use it back then like you can use it now. You couldn't do stuff like this live stream and have it go out to a bunch of people that are not even near you. They're all the way around the world and they can see it just the same as you can, right? So I think that we need to build our own systems of wealth, and our systems of wealth and success, they need to have some of the staples. We need to have grocery stores. We need to start growing more of our own food. We need to have our own schools. We need to have our own hospitals. We need to have our own banks, right? We need to have just our own areas, complete areas that, like, look, this is ours. You have to have some kind of access to get up in here. You know what I mean? And not, it's not, the exclusion isn't the primary thing, right? The inclusion is the primary thing. The safe space is the primary thing. We need that, because our safe spaces, as soon as they're created, they're eroded. You have a black group, you have some non-black people wanting to get in the black group. But then you bring up something like, if there's a women's group, oh, can men just go and join it? Oh, no. You can't do that. Well, why is that? Because they need their safe space. I agree. But we also need our safe spaces as black people, right? We need our safe spaces. And like I said, we need these pillars. We need, I think I drafted out a document that had 11 different pillars of things that need to be created or changed for black people to be able to flourish in this country.
That's cool.
It's no easy feat to get all of these 11,
right?
But they're all necessary, because if there's just one crack in the dam, they can just keep chipping at it, Let's say we have all this stuff, but we don't grow our own food or something like that. Well, it's easy for them to create food deserts. It's easy for them to because everyone needs food. It's easy for them to be able to siphon money out of our community just by food. It's easy for them to be able to put whatever they want to in our food. Look at Monsanto. You know what I mean? So yeah, we need all these things as a people. And if in connecting with the continent, I think ultimately the biggest thing that gives us is a sense of who we are. I think that's what's missing. That's what's missing. In that same movie, in Black Panther, and she screams out, she's like, "Tell him who you are!" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that hit me. That hit me. You know what I mean? Who we are. Most people, we don't know who we are. Past a couple generations, we have no idea. You don't know what runs in your bloodline. You don't know what your own cultures and systems that you created and your people's way back in the day. You don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Wow. You made me. Now I remember something that when I was at the Urban League last year, and I was talking to the kids. And we're talking about the movie Black Panther.
Yeah.
And then we're talking the language that was used over the Xhosa, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, we didn't know what these guys were talking about, but except that, we had the captioning and all that. But something sort of kind of connected us, like, you know what I mean? We sort of kind of understood what they were saying just by listening to those clicks and so forth. Like something in our DNA sort of kind of spiked,
Yeah. That is literally one of my favorite languages to listen to.
Yeah. I mean, you were in Cape Town, man.
Yeah. There's plenty of them there because they all come from the Eastern Cape and they wind up in Cape Town,
Right.
I heard two people arguing and just so many clicks were going about. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. You know what I mean? The X is like a sound and then the Q is like a sound.
Hey, you got it, man. You got it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's amazing to listen to. It's one of those languages that like I would love to learn, but I need some folks over here that I can like practice with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And my question to you is, do you think we should have an African language in our curriculums here?
Absolutely. So I grew up actually speaking Swahili.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, not fluent, but like we knew a decent amount of words in Swahili. My dad was in the movement. And so, they were under the idea that we need to not only speak oppressors' languages, right? Yeah. So he was like, I'm going to learn Swahili. So he learned Swahili And then I'm not sure if you
I
ever.
remember him telling me that. I think I remember.
Yeah.
Shout out, yeah, Rauf, man. It's a great man.
All us kids, he would be like "Tuta cuenda," and we would know, hey, it's time to go. Like, that means it's time. Let's go. And we could speak it to each other, and nobody knew what we were talking about. Nobody. And it's a very phonetic language. It's probably one of the easiest African languages to learn. That's why they're actually in South Africa's picking it up. Other countries around, I believe Rwanda just said that they're gonna kick out one of the oppressor. I don't know if it was French or English or something like that. They're gonna kick out that language and they're gonna adopt more Swahili. So
Malema has been big on that. Like, at least let's use Swahili, because Swahili is pretty much now at least international, right? So.
Yeah, I actually found someone out here in the Bay, because Swahili ain't Swahili, right? So sometimes, like, if you're in like Uganda, you're not going to get like pure Swahili. You really need an Kenyan to teach you Swahili.
Right.
And so, but I found one of my buddies out here. Him and his wife introduced me to this other person who teaches Swahili. So I'm probably going to pick it back up, and it's probably going to come like this. Even my name in Swahili means 10 in Swahili.
10, Yes. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Well, let's bring it home, man. Let's touch a little bit on. I know, and I promise that we're not going to talk politics. So let's talk a little bit about Black Lives Matter.
Sure.
Your take on that? I mean, some white people here still detest that. They don't even want to hear that.
My take on it is, I don't see white people that hate Black Lives Matter. I see white people that hate Black people. So it's not like before they started saying things against Black Lives Matter, they were just pro-Black people. Like, you don't find pro-Black white people that hate Black Lives Matter. Right? What you do find is white folks that are against Black people. They're against quote unquote equality. Truth be told, I'm not striving for equality either. I don't want to be equal to someone who's oppressed the entire world, right? Like, that's not something I want to be equal to. But they're against the idea of us having things for ourselves, of us having human rights, right? So we still have an air of dehumanization that's going on from a lot of not all white people, obviously, but a lot of white people are still thinking like this in this line. So when they say things that are anti-Black, anti-Black Lives Matter, anti-this, anti-that, that's what I hear, right? I don't hear it's about this one specific thing, but I love Black people. No. I don't believe that. I believe that they have an issue with us in general. Right.
Okay, that's a good point. And then one thing that I know, whether it's Trump or Biden, we still gonna have qualified immunity.
Oh man, woo!
So
yeah, I mean, QI is something that a lot of people don't know about. Qualified immunity, just literally, that's the reason why these cops get off.
Yeah,
because literally, qualified immunity, when you look at it, it even supersedes parts of the Constitution.
Right.
If a cop is able to tase a pregnant woman for not wanting to sign a traffic ticket,
man,
and nothing happens to them, if they're able to literally tase a pregnant woman for not wanting, like, what's wrong with this society? What's wrong with these damn rules they got out there, right? If they're able to steal many thousands of dollars from people during an arrest and stuff like that, get caught for it, and nothing happened to them, something is wrong. This is what qualified immunity does. Like, we all kind of know, he's a cop, he's probably gonna get off, but we don't really dig deeper than that. And when you dig deeper, you'll find qualified immunity at the root of most of these cases. Right? Because he's a cop, he's able to basically kill people and get off. Right? Instead of, like, because he's a cop, we're trusting you with our lives and giving you weapons that will kill people. So you should be held to an even more strict standard than anybody else. Right? If you have mental issues and this and that, you shouldn't be able to get fired or leave one police department and go work for another one because you guys don't all talk. And that's the assumptions we have, is like, if this guy's a psychopath and he's been raping people and stealing money and taking bribes, he won't be able to work as a cop anywhere else. That's not true. Right? So I think we really need to, that's what we need to examine these systems, but not just qualified immunity. Qualified immunity was built on the back of something completely different. And that's the entire system of racism and oppression in this country, because that's how the police started. Slave catchers. That's literally how they started. You read a book called Slavery by Another Name. Man, that's a powerful book. That's a powerful book because it teaches you, we know what happened during slavery. We know what happened Jim Crow and, all this other stuff. But like the period right after slavery, where they started thinking of all the extra things that they could do to sort of return us to some version of slavery. Right. And this is what was happening. People that had no authority were able to catch you because you were black, make up some trumped up, no pun intended, some trumped up charge. Right. And say, oh, well, he's got to pay, let's say $10, which was a lot of money. Let's say he had to pay. And of course, you're enslaved. You just got out of enslavement. You don't have $10. You were just trying to go from city A to city B and find your loved ones or whatever. And they say, oh, well, if you don't have $10, I'll pay the $10 to get the guy off. But now he's got to work on my farm. He's got to go break these bricks. He's got to work in this mine. And so I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do that, but I don't have a choice. Okay, let me work in this mine for a month and work off my $10. It gets the month ends. Whoo, I'm about to get out of here, go back to living my normal life. You worked on my mine, but you were wearing my shoes and sleeping in my bed. So that kind of costs some money too. So you got to work 3 more months to work that off. And then you see how the progression of that just keeps going. Right. You die in jail because you never get out. So now you look at systems like we have right now today, Whole Foods and a lot of other people was using prison labor. Right. They were paying people 73 cents a day.
Yeah.
Not an hour, but a day for a day's work. So imagine if you have an opportunity to hire someone at $15 an hour, or you can pay someone 73 cents a day. And I know it's not all the way dumbed down to that, but just imagine that. Which one would you pick as a big business, a multi-billion-dollar business that's making all this money, doing all these moves and everything? Of course, you're going to pick the 73 cents a day. So even the existence of that perpetuates a form of slavery, because that's the whole prison industrial complex. That's a prison for profits, mass incarceration. That's everything. That's what makes stuff like this so lucrative, because you think these people that own the prisons are just going to sit back and hope that people break the law? Of course not. They're going to start bribing judges. They're going to start influencing policy. They're going to start saying, no, coke is different from crack. They're going to start saying, look, we need to have 3 strikes. We need to have stop and frisk. They're going to start lobbying for all of these things. Right. So it's not. And then you go back, and Whole Foods is a part of the problem. And not just Whole Foods, but a lot of these other institutions and businesses that we probably shop at every day. And I didn't mean to go off too much, but like these are some of the things that I think about a lot in terms of solutions and in terms of us just getting out of the situations that we're in. If we really knew the truth about how this entire thing is connected together, I think that's at least a starting point. That's the awareness, and then the action comes, and then we can live positively.
That's pretty powerful. Yeah, that's pretty powerful, my brother. Okay, last word, message of hope.
Message of hope.
Yes.
To my Black African family is that I see an awakening, a global awakening of Black people. Everywhere I go, I've been to dozens of countries around the world. I think the number is around 50 or 46 or something like that. I see an awakening of our people everywhere. They're starting to want more. They're starting to realize that we deserve more. And they're starting to come together and unify as a global people, locally, nationally, and then globally. That's what's happening right now as our people. We just have to all join in on this. We have to do our part. I'm not saying everybody needs to be Malcolm or or even Malema or Kagame or Mark, or you know, but we got to be somebody. You got to do something. If you can influence, you know, 10 youth, do that. A lot of our energy needs to be pointed towards the youth, because they're going to be the ones that are going to change all of it. It's not going to be you and me, right? We're going to do our thing and we're going to put in our work and change some stuff. But the youth are really going to be the ones to push this initiative and to push this change. In Nigeria, in SARS, they're changing that. The revolution in Egypt, how you think that happened? That was the youth, right? Colombia, when they were down there in May, they have this day for Black Colombians every year. They're the ones that are down there protesting and marching and all this stuff.
In Nigeria, and SARS.
In SARS, yeah. So the youth
is dynamism, right?
Yeah, they're really doing their thing, and they're gonna do. We have to also understand they're gonna do things differently than how we're gonna do it. And us as like the older heads, we have to accept that, but also guide them where they need guidance. You know, they don't need to do exactly what we did because they're growing up in a different time than we are. And we can't even see all the ways, the differences that they're growing up. I mean, imagine growing up with social media, growing up where cell phones are just, everybody got 2 and 3 phones and this and that. You know what I mean? Bluetooth is all this streaming and, you know, 4G and now 5G or whatever.
5G.
Imagine that. I grew up, I had a pager, and that was like, I was advanced technologically, you know what I'm saying? Like with a page.
Then you had the bricks, right?
Yeah, the brick phone. Listen. So we have to imagine that they're going to be able to come up with some solutions that we can't even conceptualize right now. So we have to support them in whatever ways that we can. But these are the things that I see that keep a smile on my face, that allow me to see some hope for our people. Some real hope, because I see that awakening, and I see the youth are so hungry. They're so hungry for this change. They're willing to do anything to get it.
Wow. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
That was really powerful. So where can they find you?
People can find us, you know.
I'm getting more shirts, man. I saw you wearing some nice shirts, you know, one that goes over here, like maybe not the V, you know.
Yeah. We have a round one. We have one like this that uses mud cloth from Mali.
Yeah.
We have actual mud cloth sewn on as the heart on the shirt, and you know I love mud cloth. It's thick and those colors.
No, we get in there.
Yeah, we get in there. So, but I love beingblack.com is where you can find our merchandise, all the travel stuff. When we start doing group trips and stuff like that, again, traveling.black. Not .com or .net or anything like that. Just go traveling.black in your browser, and you'll hit the page. And there's a notifications thing you can sign up. Put your email there. We promise not to spam you, but we'll tell you. We'll notify you as soon as our trips are live again. When we're going to places like Belize or Ghana or South Africa, Brazil, Colombia, places like that, Cuba. So yeah, I love doing this because I get to learn, I get to grow. And I get to take other folks along with me.
That's wonderful, man. You know, I'm gonna have to travel with you one of these days. You know.
Hey, I'm gonna have to travel with you to Botswana.
Yeah. No, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. Thank you so much for coming to our show. Thank you. And we, you know, we wish you, you know, all the blessings, man, throughout this year. You know.
Thank you.
And in the future, yes. Thank you, my brother.
Yeah. Thank you, and say what's up to the family.